Welcome back. Today we're diving into a topic that so many of us face but rarely talk about, and that's self-sabotage or fear of being seen and imposter syndrome. These are sneaky blocks that can hold so many of us back from stepping into our full potential, whether it's in personal life or in careers as well, right? And so to help unpack this, Amanda and I are going to loop you in on a conversation. Amanda works with coaches, hypnotists, and high achievers to build unshakable confidence and break through these mental barriers. So let's jump in. To get us started, Amanda, can you share an example of what self-sabotage can look like?
Sure. The first thing that comes to mind is like procrastination tied with being perfect, like the
Mhm.
perfection procrastination kind of loop, I suppose. You're trying to get, say, for coaches out there who are on social media, you're trying to get the video perfect and like I've done this many times. You're recording it, you're saying something, you're getting stuck on saying something right. It has to be the perfect way, and it's just not coming out the way you want it to. And it's this constant loop of you're not happy with the progress you're making because you're not making the progress. And perhaps you're getting emotional, being frustrated or angry at it not working, and the outcome is not it's not helpful, basically. And maybe it's because I've talked to lots of clients recently and they're afraid of being seen. So perhaps
Mhm.
it's just the underlying fear of putting yourself out there and being judged for something you're saying, or maybe it's being judged around the field of what you're working in, maybe because maybe it's a coach or a hypnotist like myself, and some people just think it makes me laugh a little bit that people think hypnotism is woo woo. So that's kind of what I'm going towards. That's a quick example of what self-sabotage could be, one of the many things.
Yeah, I can definitely, the fear of being judged, that's something that I definitely have experience with in the past. And it was more so in terms of showing up on social media and kind of speaking my truth and having people push back. TikTok like blew up in my face a couple of years ago and like 250,000 views on something. And then you get a lot of haters come out when you see more people. And that can be overwhelming too, right? The realization that
Mhm.
I want to make this, I want to make a big difference in this world. But the bigger I become, the more hate shows up sometimes, right? But when it comes to self-sabotage, like how do you help people start to work through that?
For the most part, I work in a conversational type approach where basically that just having a conversation and kind of dig into like what is the root of
Mhm.
why someone isn't achieving their goals, what is really happening. And it's funny initially when we start having a conversation, it might be about one thing, but then 10 minutes, 20, 30 minutes later, we're talking about something completely different. And I find it just hilarious because I've gone through that process as well, where you think, oh, I'm here because I can't seem to do Instagram reels. And actually, no, it's you are afraid of being told you're wrong or something. And that stems back to a childhood, uh, something that happened. And that's what's really coming up every time that you're trying to put yourself out there because it's the pattern inside yourself, the fear jumps up
Mhm.
and it's the reminding you of a previous experience. And this is what's holding you back. And it's all unconscious or subconscious depending on the words you use. I kind of use those interchangeably, and that's the key thing is finding out why. What your unconscious mind is always looking to protect you and keep you safe, whether that actually is in a productive way or not. But
Mhm.
ideally, it's all a positive intention. So it's a matter of finding out what is that positive intention and seeing if we can rework it, kind of rework the pathways of how we learn and how we grow to be a more useful approach rather than something that's holding us back. And maybe it's just figuring out a insight and going back to that time in childhood where you thought you were wrong about a certain situation or whatever the case is, and maybe it's just getting a different perspective on what actually happened and changing the belief you have And by getting that different perspective, that could really change so many things.
Yeah. I was going to say you could use me as an example there if you wanted, because we did have a conversation yesterday, and I'm trying to remember what it was that I thought, because I came in and I said to you, like, can you help me with this? Because I feel like I did something wrong when someone's
Mhm.
upset. And then it ended
Oh,
up
yes,
going a totally different direction. I don't know, I don't remember where we got to, but yeah, I went
that's
in
right.
and I thought that was the problem.
It was something around, see, I kind of forget at times as well because I think I'm in trance too when we're doing it. So it was something around people getting upset and you were looking to fix it.
Yeah. I always, if someone was there, if someone was upset, I always thought it was my fault. I thought it was because I'd done
Mm.
something wrong. And so I thought that I needed to fix that because it was uncomfortable for me when
Mhm.
someone else was upset because it changed the energy. And Amanda
Right.
was like, yeah, but is it changing their energy or is it changing your energy? And I was like, oh, okay, because I can choose to change that back, right? And it's the conversational thing is really interesting. If you've never had a conversation with Amanda, I highly recommend it because you go in thinking like, I know what my problem is, this is it. And then by the time you kind of dig through and talk through it, it's like, holy crap, it's not what I thought it was. And it's so
Mhm.
much easier to resolve it than I thought. Like that's since I was like 5 years old. The 5-year-old me came out and was like stamping my feet and crossing my arms, like, this is what it is, and this is what the problem is. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting. I also love that with hypnosis, you don't have to go back and sit in the pain either.
Mhm.
I think that's really valuable.
Well, it is nice that we can, yes, of course, we've all had traumatic,
Mhm.
whatever you deem traumatic to be. And that could be as simple as just being told no as a child that you can't have something to various other things.
Yep.
And it's how we take that on. And it's as simple as just, yeah, going and making some tweaks and getting some new perspective. And again, I can't remember all the questions that I asked you, but it's just whatever comes up to, and it's trusting my intuition and on my own unconscious mind at the time to see where that takes us. And by asking a lot of questions, I think that helps, like helped you and has helped other people kind of look at things a little differently. And it's rather than asking why questions, which tends to keep us stuck,
Hmm.
how and what questions can actually open possibilities and maybe even curiosity as to what is going on in the situation that you're thinking about or recalling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's past things that we're talking about too, like the example I'm giving you from yesterday. But when it comes to the subconscious limiting beliefs that people have, like I'm not good enough, or
Hmm.
what if someone gets upset if I do something? Like how can you help people with that, or how do you help people with that?
Same kind of approach. I know it sounds very like basic, but it's again just having a conversation with someone. And I allow the client to bring up their own resources. So by asking those questions, they very often we all talk in metaphors at times to explain the situation or maybe the emotion that we're experiencing because we don't maybe know how to explain it any other way. And I've experienced that too. Sometimes it's just easier to put it in that kind of context as opposed to like what is anger really, and for me versus
Mm,
someone else it could be very different. So by using what the client gives me, I'm allowing them to basically resolve their own problem. I'm not coming in with I have all these tools that I can help them with,
mhm.
but it's a matter of what are they giving me so I can figure out where to help guide them to a solution,
Amazing.
if that makes sense.
How does I've been in your world long enough that it does for me, so I'm sure it will for other people as well. But like, what's the result if people don't resolve these things?
Oh, I again, I'm gonna speak from personal experience. If you're not resolving, say, the self-sabotage or the fear of being seen, the fear of judgments, like these are many things that I've dealt with. I've dealt with the fear of like I don't know what to do. Like I've gone through trainings before and it gets close to the end and I just feel like the world or the floor is about to give way because in the training, I knew what to do. I was told what to do. And then all of a sudden you're out into the world and it's like, I don't know how to do this now. Like I did really well. And now what? And then that's when, for me, at least, the fear took over. And, you get so far in your progress and you think you're going to be doing really well. Then all of a sudden some sort of sabotage pops up, like, oh, maybe I really don't want to do this, or whatever the reason might be. And it's perhaps actually just fear
Mhm.
that's making you think you don't want to do something, or it's holding you back. And it's been a number of years for me in this process to move forward. And it's still a journey, of course, but it's reaching out to your resources, like working with other coaches and hypnotists, because yes, I can do self hypnosis and I can work through things myself, do the self work. But it's wonderful if you can work with someone else too, because very often they likely pick up on something that you're not seeing or not feeling or noticing. And then it's a point of connection with someone else, which is wonderful in that regard too.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember what your question was now
I don't
after
either.
saying all that.
I had a really good example though, as you're saying, like as you're in something, you often can't see it. And like the
Yeah.
really common uh, not explanation, saying is like you can't see the forest among the trees. But I had someone
Mhm.
say to me recently, if you're inside of a Coke bottle, you can't read the label. And it's so
Yeah.
true. It's like you need a different perspective. Like I'm a nutritionist and I still work with a nutrition coach. So, or a health, a root cause testing coach, because it's very important to have someone else who's
Mhm.
non-biased, who's not like in what you're in right now, because it can
Yeah.
be like we can justify ourselves till the cows come home. I can't do this because I don't really want it, or I just need more training. That's something that I often hear too.
Yes,
Or
very much so.
X, Y, like just you can come up
Yeah.
with all of these reasons. And the more you say it, the more you believe it.
Hmm.
And then you're like, oh, no, no, it's completely legit. I can't do this because of this. And
Yeah.
someone on the outside can be like, really?
Is it
Really
true?
though? Yeah.
Yeah. Because you
Right.
said it yourself, it's the auto suggestion, the self suggestions that you keep repeating, and
Hmm.
repetition can help that stick over time.
Yeah.
I just had a thought when you mentioned the metaphor of you can't see the forest from the trees through the trees, whatever, one of
Trees.
those
Yeah.
two. And you said seeing a different perspective. If you have something where like you can't see the forest, what if you just imagine yourself stepping back or moving back
Hmm.
to have a different perspective? What do you see instead? What do you notice instead when that happens? And the Coke bottle thing, that was for someone else, was it?
That I heard that at a recent training that I was at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, it'd be like, well, are you able to, like, is the bottle clear and can you like clear it up, or can you get yourself out of the bottle? Like, what other
Mhm.
perspective can you achieve by moving the position that you're in?
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm
it's
looking
all,
for something that I can show because I mean most of this will be on a podcast, but we're gonna have the video up as well. And
mhm.
imagine in your house, this is another example that I heard. I'm not trying to steal your show, but
No,
um,
whatever can help people.
if you're in your house, look at a picture. What
Mm.
if you were to like smush your face up against the picture? How much of it can you see? Right?
Yeah,
It'll be all
exactly.
blurry and pixely and gross. But what if you take
Hmm.
a step back and then you can see the whole picture? It's the same from the inside the Coke bottle
Yeah.
metaphor that I shared, right? It's like when you're like right in the details and stuck in it, it can be hard to see the bigger picture of what's actually
Hmm.
going on and what's important to focus on. And we can
Hmm.
get so focused on these things that aren't really useful and that don't really matter. And
Hmm.
it's like, what are the things from the goal that you want? What are the things that are going to actually help you move towards your outcome now?
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think you kind of touched on it already with being so close or so honed in on one specific thing.
Hmm.
You have that tunnel vision, you're missing everything else. So maybe you have this problem in this area, this small little area that you're looking at or paying attention to, and the resource is maybe just outside of that, but you're not seeing it because you're so focused on one detail.
Yep.
And I know as like an entrepreneur and coach, when you're stuck on a detail of like website related things and it's maybe it's not the right font or whatever, But if you want to just get things going now, get the imperfect action going, because there was a quote the other day that I'm hoping it'll pop up in my head as best as possible. Um, Basically something around taking imperfect action. And if you're trying to be perfect and not taking any action, what is the point?
Hmm.
Not exactly how it came out. It's not perfect, but I'm sure everyone out there will get the intention of what I'm trying to get across because that's what's most important. We're here and we're sharing a message for them to not get lost in the perfection of something because what is perfect?
Yeah.
Can can that actually be achieved?
And
And by yeah, go ahead.
does it matter,
Does it matter? Yeah.
right?
I
In the grand scheme of things, does it matter? Like
yeah.
if you're looking to work with clients, Amanda and I both work with clients. Most of the people that Amanda works with work with clients, and it's like focus on the client.
Hmm.
What do they need? What are their needs? Are their needs? How can you help them? Because we can focus on like when, okay, so it's kind of a humor. When I first started to notice gray hairs popping up on my head, I hated it. And I was like, I can't go live. I don't want to be on camera. I don't want anyone to see me because I have a gray hair. And then Amanda told me, stop focusing on the gray hair. Look at all the brown ones that you have, right? Because we replicate that. When you're focusing on the things that you don't like, they can become bigger and
Hmm.
they hold you back even more. And
Yeah.
it's the same with everything. And from a confidence perspective, right? It's as well, which is what we were initially talking about. But it's like, what are the things that are holding you back from moving forward that don't really matter?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because I was laughing just a moment ago because I put a post up this past week and it was around the unconscious mind being 95% versus the conscious mind, which was 5. And I didn't even realize that the spelling on it was wrong. But it didn't matter. There was still a lot of engagement on the post and
Hmm.
comments, and the intention of it was still achieved, even though it was completely wrong. So I laugh about that now. So I could have, once I actually noticed that, I could have taken that down. But why? The intention of it is still being achieved, and yes, it's not perfect, but it shows other people that I'm not perfect either, and just work with what you have and improve as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we talked about self-sabotage,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, getting stuck in the details,
Yes.
overthinking
Hmm.
decisions is something that often happens. A list of some of the things, like the thinking, I'm not good enough, maybe I don't really want this, because your unconscious mind is trying to keep you safe,
Yeah.
right? It's like, oh, no, no, don't do this. You don't really want this because it's uncomfortable. And anytime, I mean, change is
Hmm.
uncomfortable, but we're going to change either way.
Yeah.
So why not choose the change that you want, right? Have an active participation in where you're going in the future. What else did we talk about? So yeah, small brave actions like putting the post out there. You
Hmm.
could look back a couple days later and the spelling is wrong. Who cares? Actually,
No
it's
one cared.
sometimes no one cared on yours like at all. They didn't miss a beat.
No.
Sometimes people point out the spelling mistakes, which boosts your
Hmm.
engagement. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
what's
again,
the
that
outcome?
shows, well, yes, and that for me and perhaps others shows what that person's focused on
Hmm.
and what their maybe model of the world is at that time. And they're just focusing, maybe they're having the tunnel vision on, oh, this isn't right, versus like what other message could you get from the post? What do you notice about that when you think about that for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, just again, different perspectives on it.
Are there any comments that you found inspiring from the stuff you've shared this week
Uh,
or wanted
let's
to
see.
share? You had some really good ones.
Um, yeah, there were a couple on TikTok now that I think about it, and they resonated with the self-sabotage and basically, as I've done in the past, and I'm still working through, you set your own bridge on fire, even though across the bridge is all the things you want, yet nope, you're setting it on fire just to, yeah, sabotage yourself, as the title says.
Hmm.
And this person also resonated with it's like the fear of failure, fear of being exposed and the judgment and around family and peers specifically. And it's like, yeah, I get that. I understand that. and kind of digging into a conversation about how have they moved forward? Have they found any tools to help? And they did, and they're actually moving past things and really interested in the self-hypnosis aspect of it. So it's, and even popped out a interesting metaphor on there. So I'll just leave that little tidbit there. If someone actually wants to go and read that, you can. So it's kind of fun to see what comes up for people, and that's the conversations you can have. And it's been great connecting with people and just kind of putting out some questions to them to see if I can get a different perspective, or even just opening up a positive loop for them so they can look at the world a little differently. Um, that's one of the newer things that I've been really working on, is wanting to create those loops for people. And having the fun with it too, which is great, because kind of like crafting these questions on the spot and just kind of hopefully getting them to be inspired by noticing more positive things in the world. If they've, especially if that's something they're talking about in the post as it is, like they've had this great achievement, they've had these sessions with clients and they're having amazing outcomes. And it's just kind of, okay, how can I put something together? What are you noticing now going forward, kind of thing? It sounds a little better than just that, but yeah, it's pretty fun. And I've been enjoying that aspect of it.
Awesome. Is there anything else you would like to share? We're going to share your resource at the end for sure, and it'll be in the show notes too. But is there anything else you want to share with people before we wrap up?
One thing I've been finding very helpful recently, it's very simple. It's taken from another technique, which is called mindscaping, and that's through Mike Mendel. And I don't know if this is probably not maybe the intention of the technique that I took from it, but I just use it as a separate way of putting myself in a certain state that I want to be in. And it's just a matter of taking your both hands and putting them on your heart. And I take deep breaths in, as deep as I can. And at the top of every one, I say an intention word for whatever I want to have in the moment. And maybe it's just around being present or creative or even just having fun. So I would just simply take the deep breath in, present, and breathe out, and do that 2 additional times. And even just after doing the 3 breaths, noticing the difference in my body and feeling more grounded and present as it was, because that was my intention, and just focusing on my heart area. Yeah, the shift is pretty neat, and just noticing the calmness around how I feel when I do that, even just with doing that 1 breath. So imagine if I did 2 more, how even, how much better it would be to do that. So that's just a simple thing you could add in, maybe if you're feeling a little anxious or nervous or whatever the feeling is that you don't want. Just take yourself, just have that moment of hands over heart, focus on your heart area. 3 deep breaths in, and at the top of every breath, just say the intention word that you want for that moment, and just let it all out, and just be calm, relaxed, and just notice what you notice.
Awesome. Breath work is so powerful. Like that's
Mhm.
something that even when I work with clients too, it's like it takes you out of fight or flight and puts you
Mhm.
into your parasympathetic. So that alone is going to make it easier for you to create change and do the things you want to do. So yeah, I love that. Okay, talk to us about your free audio that people can download.
Yeah, it's kind of a good starting point, I think. Uh, we talk about confidence a lot, or lack of confidence for coaches, and it's something that is definitely built. You need to put in the action to build the confidence with anything you want to achieve. But sometimes you just kind of need that. I just got an image of being pushed in my head, which makes me laugh. So sometimes we just need that extra little push, or that extra little, something to support us through the moment. And I just have a free confidence boost hypnosis that can kind of help with that initially. So if that can get you doing your first step, or maybe a couple steps to help build that confidence, it's something I know we'll put in the show notes, and
Mhm.
anyone who wants it can definitely go get it.
Amazing. Well, thank you. I'm excited to add more of the mindset related stuff back into our show. It's interesting because when we started this show, that was what we were talking a
Yeah,
lot
that's right.
about. And we've said recently on our 100th episode that we've like kind of circled back because we're
Hmm.
talking more about mindset related stuff as well. But it's like you can have all of the pieces, but if you don't have kind of the system to make it all work, and that's where mindset is such a
Hmm.
huge tool. That's where we get in our way the most. That's where we
Yeah.
self-sabotage the most, right? It's not the details, it's the operating system. So I think it's
Hmm.
really
Needs an
important.
upgrade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Reboot.
And that's what hypnosis can do for people. You
Yeah,
get that upgrade so your phone works better, and you get that upgrade so you can achieve your goals and have a better life that you want to live.
amazing. Well, thank you very much for listening today. We'll put everything in the show notes, so make sure you check it out. Amanda's free hypnosis is awesome. I've listened to it multiple times. Reach out to us if you have any questions as well. I'll be more than happy to help, and we'll see you on the next one.